Hello and welcome to Poetically Inspiring Change. I'm Angela Braxton Johnson, a Black, fat, oldish, disabled sister poet and a woman of faith. This podcast is a creative space for intersectional healing, Black joy, and diet culture recovery. Please note that some episodes may touch on sensitive topics like trauma, mental health, or body image as I share my personal journey and stories. I approach these topics with care. Also, this is a body size inclusive, judgment free space. But should you feel uncomfortable, please take good care of yourself and come back to listen whenever you are ready. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's inspire change together, honey child.
Poetically inspiring change. Poetically inspiring change for life, joy, peace in your body.
Hey y'all, Angela Braxton Johnson here with Poetically Inspiring Change. I am here to use poetry, my stories, and my faith to inspire Black joy and the joy of the Lord, intersectional healing, and diet culture recovery. So today I want to talk about fear a little bit. When I say inspiring joy, I'm sure most people understand what that means. Joy, like happiness, like peace. Intersectional healing. That intersectionality deals with layers of isms and oppression that a lot of bodies experience in this world. And so when I say intersectional healing, I'm thinking about layers of healing, layers and layers on layers of healing. So, and that means really doing deep work. And it's not just a one level thing, but oftentimes we have to go deeper and higher to reach the level of healing that we so deserve. And diet culture recovery deals with just healing from diet culture. Diet culture is living in a world that says that our bodies need to be a certain size, that it needs to look a certain way, and it's everywhere. I mean, everywhere I go, people are talking about, oh, I got to lose some more weight. I got to do this or that. Now, this is a weight inclusive space. I want to try to make it that way as much as possible. I may fail sometimes, but I'm not going to be talking about losing weight unless I'm sharing about a story, because that's no longer my focus in my healing. It's just being in my body and just healing and letting my body do what my body does without me trying to control it one way or the other, which really comes with true recovery. So recovering from all the noise, recovering from addictions, since my imbalances, disorders, addictions, I'm using quotation marks, air quotes, because I'm not fully sure about how I feel about addictions, but I do know as how I feel about food addictions. I do know that there are times when I'm like way off center, when I'm really out of balance, and I feel that I don't have control over food. If somebody puts something in front of me and I'm not hungry, there are times when I'm gonna eat that thing, even when I wasn't hungry, or even if I didn't really want it, or just not having control over food and over my body because of all the trauma and the stress and all the not just the intersectionality, all those layers of oppression that I've taken in and tried to handle in ways that are not healthy. So I'm hopefully here to help inspire you to do some healing. I've done a lot of healing on my own, and I hope that my stories and my poems and even my faith will help you to find some of the same healing. There may be some things here that you don't agree with, but in the 12-step rooms, they say there's a saying that says, Take what you want and leave the rest. Now, since I've grown in my recovery, I think it's more than me taking what I want. I think I like to say, take what you need and leave the rest. Because sometimes what I want is not always what I need. But you can choose what's good for you. So I'm going to start with this poem. Well, first, actually, I'm going to read from a book called For Today. In some 12-step programs, there are, there's literature. And one of the literature books in the program that I frequent and that I'm a member of uses the book called For Today. And in my writing, since that is something, going into the 12-step rooms is something that God led me to. You'll hear me talk about that from time to time, because in January of 2024, God led me to the 12-step rooms. It was not my choice. It was not what I wanted, but it was clearly after a time of praying and fasting and really seeking God's face. God, that's where he led me, which was also where he led me in 2015. But I never wanted that to be my answer. I never wanted this way to be my answer. But now, as I have been healing and recovering so much this year, within this past year and some change, I'm really grateful that I listened. And then it's like, why wouldn't I listen? Why wouldn't I listen? Angela, why don't you listen, girl? Especially when God is my creator. He's the one that made this body, that knows everything about me. So I don't know why in the past, I would pray and ask God to do something, and then I get a little bit of relief, or like he's starting to make a way, and then I'm like, okay, God, I got it, and then I just try to take over. So I'm so happy that I serve a gracious and loving and long-suffering God, because I have. I'm sure I've been working his nerves over these decades. So I'm gonna read a poem, but before I do that, I'm gonna read from the book I was referencing. In my practice, my daily practice, I usually have a time of prayer, time of meditation, and a time of writing. And so one of the books that I read for my recovery from diet culture, this is one of the tools, is the book called For Today. And I'm reading from the July 3rd reading. I will not be afraid to enjoy what is beautiful, and to believe that as I give to the world, so the world will give to me. And that quote is from Just for Today. How is it possible to be afraid to enjoy what is beautiful? There is surely no threat in beauty. It was a fear of living, actually, that made me hide in food. To be afraid to live is to be afraid of everything, good as well as bad, beautiful as well as ugly. In giving to the world, it is I who must make the first move. I who must run to meet life with a smile that says, I'm happy to be here. To like oneself, to enjoy life, and to have enthusiasm for its precious gifts is to give to the world. For today, freedom from food obsession restores to me my God-given right to enjoy the beauty of this world and to not be afraid to show it. Now that's from the reading, and from that reading, this is what I wrote on July 3rd. Receiving the beautiful without fear. Lord, I thank you for the present, for the beauty of today, for the ground, dirt, and cement that I tread along the way. Beautiful humans all over the world, melanated rainbows to my eyes, straight-haired, no hair, or hair that's curled, bodies created in every size. As the world has given me, I so freely give it back, willingly and with gratitude, despite the spiritual attacks. And without fear, I'm taking in the good, the bad, and the in between, focusing not on temporal things, but on God's grace and peace unseen. I am so grateful for the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, the skies, and for the healing in this temple, for strong faith without compromise. I am so grateful to be alive. With God, I do not have to fear. So with this confidence, I rise, keeping my fam and fellows near, keeping my sister girls near too. Living out loud and with a smile, not hiding behind my fears nor food, accepting the beauty of this here day, along with the ugly, the bad, and the good. Snap, 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 snap. Okay, copyright Angela Braxton Johnson, July 2024, all rights reserved. So this really began to speak to me today because I'm going to tell you a couple of things that happened to me when I was thinking about fear. And I'm also going to share scripture today. So if you are anti-Bible or anti, Christ or whatever, this might not be the podcast for you. And I don't always bring in scriptures, but sometimes I do. So, take it or leave it. Anyway, I wanted to talk about a couple of things, some of recent examples of fear that had this heavy on my mind. One happened today, but the first one that I want to talk about is recently at my job, a bunch of people were laid off. And I felt some kind of way about that. Like, and not only because the jobs were laid off. I mean, the people were laid off, my colleagues, people that I had grown to, just have respect and appreciation for, and my colleagues. So several of them were laid off. And then there was this period where it was like crickets from upper management. Like I wasn't hearing anything about like what's happening. So like, wait, what? Like, so someone close to me lost their job. So I found out about it right away. But anyway, that left this, what I know now is fear, but I didn't recognize it as fear, or I didn't even go deep enough to realize that it was fear. What I said, well, okay, if this is happening now, this happened to them, this can happen to me. So let me get into stay ready mode. Stay ready. There's an old saying that says, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready, right? So I was like, okay, well, I've been a serial entrepreneur and solopreneur since 1992. And that's on the record since 1992. Off the record, I've really been an entrepreneur since I was a child. When I used to cornrow or French braid our neighbors' children's hair and put beads on it and all that, and they paid me like $5 or $10. Like I was making money, and that was a lot back then. That was back in the 70s, and or when I would babysit for various families, family friends, their children, and that kind of thing. So I've always had like this entrepreneurial spirit, and but officially since 1992, I've been working my own business. So I thought, well, if this is happening, then I just need to get ready. Let me just get my businesses ready. Let me get all my ducks in a row and just be ready. Because I need to be ready. I need to get ready and be ready and stay ready. And then I thought, and how what I needed to do to be ready or stay ready put me into doing mode. And I'm using air quotes because I think that a lot of times when we get stuck into doing mode, we, for me anyway, I exit. I begin to exit my body. I'm not as embodied during those times because I'm thinking in my head what I need to do instead of sensing what is God saying? What is my body saying? What is my divine knowing saying? Like, what is all of that? Honey, listen, that's not where I was. I was like, okay, do what I got to do, what I got to do, what I got to do. So I had an idea that had come to me back in the early 2000s when I was working my business, when I was working my childcare business. And so people who are serial entrepreneurs, we always come up with ideas. Not every idea is meant for us to act on. Some ideas are just that, ideas. But I thought, well, I had thought about this idea again, so it came up again last year. I thought about it again, and then I thought about it this year. So I'm like, well, this keeps coming up. Maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. So I got it in my mind that I'm going to, because as a that, well, let me finish that thought. I got it in my mind that I'm going to do I'm going to do work that is in higher demand, something that when they don't need a poet to come and speak or come and share liberation poetry or inspirational poetry or motivational poetry, or to talk about body trust or, healing or doing, when those jobs are not calling me, I can have something stable, something that people are always going to need. Bookkeeping. Ding. That was my idea back in like 2004. I had some bookkeepers, and actually after that too. I think before that and after that. Um, and I watched different bookkeepers and how they worked, and my bookkeeper a little bit later than that, by the time I had worked with my bookkeeper, who was now a really dear friend, but she taught me a lot of things on how to do the books. I could do the books. I knew how to do it. I knew how to reconcile. Like, she taught me a lot of stuff. It's not my passion, but it's something that I could do. So I thought, well, since I can do that, that's something that I will do, and that will bring in money. So when or if I get fired, I will have income, something that is in demand. So I thought that that was me in stay ready mode, but really that was me in fear mode. And so that was the one thing that I did. And then and in that, I took on, in my doing mode, I took on a bunch of stuff that was not mine to take on. I spent money that I did not need to spend. For one, I signed up for a course for bookkeepers because I'm like, well, if I want to make sure I get the best training, that I, do this with a bang. That's just me. I want to, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it well. So I signed up for, and I also started taking some online bookkeeping courses. I signed up for this cohort of bookkeepers and accountants. That was an online group that my bookkeeper told me about, a 6-month group. Signed up for that, dropped $1,000 for that class. And I didn't just have that cash, I actually borrowed that money via my credit card. So I took that on. I also, and I went through the whole process, started the business, registered the business, got the EIN, the tax ID number. I got the, registered with the state. I did all of that. Because I'm in stay ready, air quotes, stay ready mode. And I just went through all of this. And taking a class takes a lot. And I wasn't just taking one class. So I pretty much got to a point where I wasn't really doing anything extra, like watching TV or different. I didn't have time for that because I needed to, like, in between things, I'm listening to the course, or while I'm making my lunch, I'm watching the training video, or I'm logging into to the platform to do my work. And I'm doing all this stuff. And not only do I do that, did I do that? So that was a whole that was a whole thing. Is still a whole thing, but there's a little bit that's changed, and I'll tell you about that at the end. So I did all of that, signed up for that, which it took so much energy that it took away from the things that I would normally have had energy for. For example, that was happening in the fall. The class started, I went to a little, I think a 4 or 5 day thing, signed up. Y'all know how it works. You do the 3 to 5 day class, and then you get a bunch of free stuff. And then there's a big, heavy sales call. And if it speaks to you, you sign up for it. And I don't usually sign up for every class like that, but this I already had this thing in my mind that I'm gonna do this, and I had already started the process. So, my bookkeeping coach advised me to do it, and I looked into it, and I thought it was a good thing to do. So took away, since I was doing all this extra work, that meant that I couldn't spend extra time in extracurricular things or in volunteer things. For example, I volunteer with the performing arts program at my church. And last year or earlier this year, I did I led the Easter play, The Great Messiah. And so, time was coming up for preparing for the Christmas play or the Christmas program. And I thought I would be able to do it. I was asked, can I do it? And I was like, sure, I think I can fit in time between, working full time, taking the one class. But I wasn't just taking the one course. There's another course, y'all, that I was taking that around the same time. I don't know what I was thinking. It was fear. It was fear. So I was taking another class. Now, this other class was it was on purpose. It was in line with my purpose. That is the 7-figure podcast class, because I knew it's been on my spirit and my heart to do a podcast for more than 7 years, at least 7 years. I feel like I'm going to say 7 years because this would make it Jubilee, but it's at least 7 years I've been thinking about doing a podcast. So that class, it made sense for me to be doing that class. That was a 6-week class instead of 6 months. So it wasn't nearly as demanding. So I got the 6-month class that I'm doing. Oh, and I'm working full time. Then I also take on a 6-week class, and I'm a wife, and I'm a mama, and I'm a grandmama, and I'm a sister friend, and a family member, like whatever all the other things. And I'm the owner of Poetically Inspiring Change. So it was just too much, and it was like like being stretched. Like there was nothing else I could take on. So I had to take things off of my plate. And that was totally me acting in fear. I didn't realize that then. Had I known that back then, I would have kept my $1,000, because, honey, I did ask for a refund, but I waited till after, I don't know, 7 days, whatever the time was, 7 days, 2 weeks, whatever the time frame was, I missed it. So that was me acting in fear. And as a result of that, I spent a lot of energy and time that I didn't have to spend. Then when I really got in God's face about it, like my friend and pastor, she's always going to be a type of pastor for me. One of my pastors, one of my good friends, Pastor Cheryl Denise, she always says, Angela, get in God's face about it. Get in God's face about it. So when I finally got in God's face about this class, was at a global women's retreat put on by Elder Lakeisha Wells, a CEO of, I'm not going to call the name of her business because I'm going to mess it up. But Lakeisha Wells put on this global women's retreat. And it was a free event, and it was amazing. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I got so much out of that. One of the things that I was seeking God for was clarity, because, I'd had some doubts about the bookkeeping, but I thought, maybe that's just, like, I don't know, not doubts to make me not follow through, but I don't know what I thought it was. But I kind of in the back of my mind, it was like, you know what? You know what? This is too much. This is a lot. This is a lot. So I did what I should have done, what I needed to have done without shoulding all over myself. Um, I got in God's face about it. And really more so at that women's retreat. And that was one of the things I was seeking. You know, on the first day, we were asked to write on this little card, like what we were praying for. And one of one of my prayer requests, what I wanted to leave that retreat with was clarity. So I got my clarity, and I found out that, you know what? I wasn't supposed to be. I didn't need to do that bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is not my jam. Yes, I know how to do it, but that is not my purpose. That's not what I was called to do in this season of my life. Probably no seasons, but who knows? Down the line, I'm not going to try to say I don't know what the future holds. But for today, I was not, I am not supposed to be trying to be nobody's bookkeeper. Okay, so I got that clarity. And I also realized, and this didn't come until after, at the end of all of that discovery, I realized it was fear. Like, so Angela, like, why did you do that? You know, I'm asking myself, why? Because honestly, I'm always saying that I'm not really afraid to lose my job because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a hustler. I'm a hustler. I'm a hustler. I'm going to find work or create work, or I've never had a problem with finding work. So I really don't know what my issue was, but the impact of all of those people being laid off was it was major for me, and I didn't even realize how much that had impacted me. So that was one of the things that caused me to act, one of the examples of fear recently. So after all of that, I realized bookkeeping is not my jam. Podcasting still is. Here's an example of that because I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And um, and bookkeeping is not my jam. Podcasting is my jam. Bookkeeping is not my jam. And I'm gonna leave that to my bookkeeping friend, my and coach. And by the way, I was also paying a bookkeeping coach because I know that the way that I learn is not like a lot of people. It's not linear. I have a combination learning style. I need to hear it. I need to see it. I need to write about it. I need some hand holding. I need some help. Okay. Um, it takes me a minute to learn new things. Now, when I learn it, then I got it. You know, I usually have it, but it takes me a minute to learn. So I was also investing in a coach, which I no longer have to do. So I really had to repent for not just trusting God from the get go, like trusting God from the gate. That was one of the examples. And then another example is that I am a coach, and most people who are coaches have a coach because we realize the power of coaching. We realize how impactful. Every time that I've done anything major in my life, almost every time I had a coach, whether I was paying them or not, I had a coach or a mentor, someone who was pouring into me their wisdom and knowledge and just whatever I needed to go to the next step, always. And so as a coach, I know that I need a coach. And in this season, so, you know, doing something major, dealing with the podcast, doing a whole lot of things that I know I'm going to need help with. So investing in that class, the 7-figure podcast, that's one of the best investments that I've made because not only do I have the class, but those who they also provide a learning community where, and it's lifelong. Here's another thing. Let me tell y'all. The bookkeeping class that I took is a 6-month class, and you can get all of the resources and download it and have it, and you have it, and that's for 6 months. And once the 6 months are over, you're done. You don't have access to any of those things. What I love about the 7-figure podcast class is that it's a lifelong class. I've taken one other class like that I have yet to use, and that is going on my 2025 vision board, is to utilize the information from that class, which is a Danielle Leslie class. And if y'all don't know who Danielle Leslie is, she's the queen of working from anywhere. She's a millionaires, and so that's on my list. But back to the 7-figure podcast. I mean, it's giving so much. It's giving me so much training and information. I mean, they tell you all aspects of what to do. Now, some things, it's just like what I said to you at the beginning of this podcast. You take what you want or take what you need and leave the rest. There are some things that I'm not going to do, but they give you many options of how to do things, of what kind of equipment to buy. You can start here and work your way up to this, or work your way up to that, or you can start here and just stay here. Like, they just give you so many options. And there is a community as well. So that was one of the best investments that I've made, and it's still paying off because I still have access to my teachers. They have a weekly meeting that I get to log into and ask questions and get help. And even if I don't ask questions, I can just go there and listen and learn from the questions that my colleagues and fellow students and fellow podcasters, sister podcasters, are asking. I learn from their questions and their interactions. And that chat, I can't even keep up with the chat in that class. It just be gone. But I love that. So getting in God's face, like praying about it, like being that deep listening can save so much time and energy when we are in our bodies and we act from a place of embodiment, a place of wisdom, and a place of being, rather than acting from a place of getting our heads and getting into doing mode, which also zaps us of our rest. And, one of my Bishop Tricia Hersey, I think I said her name right, but the Nap Ministries, the lady who created the Nap Ministries, talks so much about, grind culture, and how, like, this is not what we're set to do. Like, this is not what we're set up to. We're not set up to be like that, to just be going, doing. So I've been really working intentionally about to divest from that grind culture. But it's in me, y'all. It's in me. Sometimes I get into it and I don't even know that is happening. And so I'm growing, I'm learning, and I'm growing. So if you may have already been there, done that, or you might be about to make a decision, you may be about to do something where you're kind of at a crossroads where you're like, should I do this? Should I do that? And if you're all up in your head trying to make your decisions there, I invite you to just pause for a beat and do that deep inner, like asking those questions, asking questions like, is this really for me? Like, just getting in your body, breathing, taking some deep breaths, writing about it, praying, meditating, getting to that quiet space so that your higher power can let you know what the truth is for you and what the next right step is for you. So I hope that I've said something that has encouraged you, that has inspired you. And with that, I'm going to end this episode. And I thank you so much for listening. If I said something that you like, I encourage you to please click the like button. A lot of times we scroll, we listen and scroll, But I personally take time to stop, and I like what I like. I know it's going to inform the algorithm, and I want the algorithm to be informed. This is what I like. So go ahead. You can, you know, you can show me more of this. So if this is something that that you have enjoyed, any parts of it, please like, please subscribe. I would love to hear feedback. If you have a comment, you can leave a comment in the comment section. Either on social media or also on YouTube or Spotify, wherever there are spaces for comments. You can follow me also on Spotify, and you can subscribe on YouTube. It's basically the same thing, but just they use different words. I would really appreciate that, and that would help. That will help this message to get out to more people. So, and if this is not for you, you probably know somebody that'd be like, you know what? My auntie such and such would love this. Honey, please share. That's the other thing. Even if it's not for you, then share it with somebody in your life that you do believe this would speak to. I would really appreciate it. And again, I thank you. Have a beautiful day, y'all. Mwah.
Politically inspired.